Do you identify more with Latin or Asian ethnicity? Glad you learned Spanish. Was it hard? So this came up, I think the glad you learned Spanish part came up because in my stories the other day, I was doing a home tour and my housekeeper was with me and she only speaks Spanish. And so I was giving her the tour and so everyone could hear my Spanglish because I am not completely fluent in Spanish, but they could hear my Spanglish. And I think it was like the first time really I've ever, I guess, spoken Spanglish on social media. And so people were kind of like freaking out that I was doing that because they'd never heard me. But as far as how I identify, it's funny because I think when people look at me, they see an Asian person or they're not sure, I guess, what my ethnicity is. And then when I say I'm Asian and Hispanic, they're kind of like, oh, I see the Asian. But what's funny is I grew up in New Mexico and New Mexico is predominantly Latino. And so I would say that I identify more as Latina because that's how I grew up. I grew up around New Mexican culture, which it's a really interesting culture in itself. My dad calls us Chicano, and it's partially because like he's more like first generation. It's really it's not even first generation. You don't really even call it that. It's like it's just basically at some point Spaniards came to that area of New Mexico that used to be Mexico. It became part of the United States. So a lot of the people that have been there, like my family members, have been there for hundreds of years already, but they started off as Mexican. I guess like a little bit more of a mix of like Spanish meets indigenous and, have become the culture that it is. So it's a very interesting culture. It's what I identify with most. And we grew up speaking Spanglish. So not pure Spanish, but Spanglish. The funny thing though, is that my Korean grandma came to live with us when I was a little girl. So there was always this like Korean aspect to my life as well, because my grandma was with us for so long. So like when it came to food and hearing my mom and my grandma speaking, my 할머니, there were all these like little things that I learned and picked up that came from Korean culture, but it just was like an internal thing that would happen. And because my parents' first languages were Spanish and Korean, in the household, we spoke English as the main language. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I'd say Latino.